So we're getting hopping on a little bit early here to get this whole technology thing going. There we go. Perfect. Yes, it's just technology is not always that predictable. So we have I used my iPad this morning and that wasn't working out so well. It kept stalling for some reason. Here we go. All right. And I bring my friend on. Here we go. Yeah, so it's 5:58. I've been up since 5 o'clock this morning. Needed a little bit of a coffee to wake me up to get myself started. And I'm going to share this to a page here. Here we go. All right, just getting organized here. All right. Yeah, it's pretty early. It's pretty early to get. I don't think many people are awake in my part of the world. Good morning, Debbie. That is pretty early. Yeah, 5 o'clock was hard this morning to get up, but it's it's 3 hours ahead back east, so this is the best time that we could find here. And see if my friend Ava can come on board here. All right. Yeah, it's going to be such an interesting topic. I'm excited. Yeah, it's interesting topics. It's it's so great. What I love about social media now, it's got its drawbacks because it can make you a bit insane. What I love about it though is the ability to connect with people across the world. So this is actually and being able to connect with people like Ava and other individuals out there. Now I'm just gonna try and track her down here. Hey, good morning. All right. There she is. Oh, yeah, there. Yeah, I think it's back east where Ava is. Of course, I think they got a ton of snow. So it's not quite as... Oh, hang on here, what do we got? Getting things organized here. All right. Okay. There she is.
Ta-da!
Ta-da! We figured it out. How awesome is that?
I know, I'm so proud of you.
Well, I had my iPad set up and it and all of a sudden it started stalling and I go, oh no. So back to my iPhone. It just anyhow, yeah, we had to figure it out. That's so awesome.
Yep, and we're only 120 seconds late.
All right, well that's so cool. So what is it now? You got some snow back east, do you? Or what's the weather like?
Well, at the moment, so far, it looks like somebody told a fib, but it's supposed to be getting bad later.
Right. I mean, far be it from the weatherman to get it wrong, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, I mean, this is kind of exciting. It's like we were talking the other day. This is kind of the first of many type of broadcasts we can do. social media can be a real distracting tool and have you accomplish nothing. Or if you're focused and if you're intentional about using social media, you can do some pretty amazing things with it.
Yep.
And so let's not waste a whole lot of time here, because I can tend to babble on in circles. So let's get right into the subject matter around nutritional psychology. It's again, I find it really such an interesting topic, because it's, of course, being in the wellness industry and knowing that knowing how challenging it is for people to what we want this thing to do is determined by what this thing is going to tell it to do, right? Yep. So people are perpetually struggling with this. It's like the angel on one side, the devil on the other side. So what is nutritional psychology, and why isn't it it doesn't seem like to be a really big topic out there?
Yeah. So can we start with what it's not? Because I want to make sure people understand what nutritional psychology is not first. Okay. It's not about weight loss, and it's not about muscle building, although the outcomes may be that you lose weight and gain muscle. This is about, at the core of it is macronutrient mood therapy, which is something that people can do their own homework about and learn about. Macronutrient mood therapy is looking at proteins, fats, and carbohydrates and how they intersect with brain chemistry to create mood, either in a positive or negative way. And people have heard about the gut-brain axis. That's a hot topic these days, and how what we eat, that's the second brain in our bellies and that kind of thing. That's not my area of expertise. And so what I did was I learned enough about macronutrient mood therapy and then coupled it with what I have known for decades about how to help people change their mindset, their emotionality, and their behaviors. Because to me, focusing on just what you eat to change your brain chemistry is really only going to be kind of one corner of the triangle of how to approach a healthier use of food. What I've done is to make nutritional psychology different is to attach and create what I call the biopsychosocial approach to nutrition. So the bio is the macronutrient mood therapy. People can take notes and look that up and get lots of great information. And frankly, I don't really want to get caught up in the scientific terminology, not because people can't understand it, but because there's just so much more to cover, and we can always get back to people on, the technical terms and how it actually works. And so I'm going to dumb it down for myself even a little bit today. So the bio part is the macronutrient mood therapy part. The psycho part of biopsychosocial is looking at the emotions we attach to food and eating. Now, we all have moments where, we have a comfort food that we go to, right? It's such a common term, right? The comfort food. And there's a reason for that. And I hear about this all the time, that people have, their go-to, not just with food, and this is why I've attached the psycho part of it, but people do this. They look for external something to create internal something. So the external something could be a bagel, it could be a chocolate cake, or it could be cocaine, or it could be marijuana, whatever it is. Looking to adjust what's going on in their brains. And they may not be cognizant of that. That's not something that people are conscious of all the time. When you're a drug addict, you're a little more conscious of it because there's a process to that. But food is so easily accessible. That's what makes it tricky for people with eating disorders, in fact, because the treatment is so complicated, because you can't not eat. You have to have food. And if you're a binger, then it's about learning about exactly what we're going to talk about today, which is the psycho and social components. So the social part of biopsychosocial, and I'm almost done with this answer to your question, the social part is the behaviors, the actual patterns that people have generated over the years. And they can go back to, I've got my own, and in fact, if I will send people information, but they can also today download my new workbook for 99 cents and get all of this stuff.
Oh, cool.
Right? We can talk about that in the end or put a link on, whatever. So the social part, those behaviors, and you know this very, very well because of the work that you do, how the brain works to connect these patterns continually if we don't take charge of them, if we don't become aware and then decide choice. We can choose, and we underestimate our ability to choose. But the social component is, things like, for me, for example, full disclosure, I know that from the time I was a little girl, when I transitioned from when I come home, coming home to me means putting something in my mouth. It means eating something. It's just what I grew up with, my mother feeding me the second I walked in the door. That's what mothers did. My mother did. And whether it was a Pop-Tart, do you remember Pop-Tarts? Pop-Tarts?
Yeah.
And so now what I do is I make sure I time what I want to eat. I know I'm going to want to eat when I get home, so I adjust it so that that's going to be when I have my, appropriate meal or snack or whatever when I get. That's an example.
Yeah, well, it sounds like you're talking a lot about being more mindful about what's going on, rather than, like, as you said, it's just, I got a fridge full of food, I got a pantry full of food, and even with the healthiest of food choices, you can go overboard and make and really.
You have a cup full of coffee. That's what I want to know. Do you have a cup full of coffee?
Cheers.
Okay. Cheers, Dave.
So it's that mindfulness piece, rather than becoming just an unconscious behavior, right?
Yeah, right.
So what is the process around that mindfulness piece? Is that just a matter of looking at and saying, this is a bagel? So people see a donut in their hand. So how do you make that? How do you get over the disconnect between?
Yeah. So again, I'm not pushing the book, but this is what's in the book: is this autopilot eating behavior, and how to be a driver and not go into autopilot mode. Because we do that all the time. We do that with and the relationship we have with food is also, it often mirrors the relationship we have with love in romance, and with money.
Right.
And we have, a lot of times people, kind of suck at saving money, or they overspend. They never manage their budget right. Or with love, they give themselves into it. They kind of reckless, or they withhold. So the same thing is true with food. And that was a very simple summary of that. Those create the knee-jerk reactions to things, those patterns of behavior. And so, what happens is that when people figure out how they don't have to go into that autopilot mode with things, when they create the pause between thought and action.
Right.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, it just comes to mind the expression, how you do some things is how you do everything. The behavior becomes kind of systemic, where it shows up, right? If there's a uncontrolled, potentially hazardous behavior, or that's not a nourishing behavior on one part, you're going to find evidence of that elsewhere, I'm sure.
Yeah, for sure. Right. So basically, the behavior patterns, it's about creating the pause. And there's different ways to do that. And I work with people with different techniques depending on what their lifestyle is like outside of eating. We look at what's going to work for them with generating that. It's really about 30 to 60 seconds, 90 seconds for people who have stronger impulsivity. But 30 to 60 seconds is all you need to start changing those behavior patterns.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because it's funny you mentioned that timeline, because just recently I was reading something that said emotions really only last for 90 seconds.
That's right.
The rest of it's connected to, and then the rest of it actually just accesses previous behavior. So if you can pause that, you're not accessing that. Yeah, that's fascinating.
Well, and why is that? You know this better than me. It's because of brain chemistry.
Right.
It has nothing to do with anything else other than, look, we are hormonally driven beasts. So, it depends on where our serotonin level is, where our dopamine level is, where our cortisol level is. Right. And we get our buttons pushed for certain emotions. Typically, we're talking about the stressors, the anxiety, depression, the fear, whatever it is. What pops into the brain most, first and foremost, cortisol, right? And that's a huge chunk of what biopsychosocial approach to nutrition is about. It's about managing that cortisol level so that you can reduce your stress, because David, you know what cortisol does to our bellies, right?
Yeah.
What does it do? Go ahead, tell everybody.
Well, I mean, it's just one of the big things that it can do is it strips away the lining of our gut. You know, cortisol ends up changing the bacteria levels in our gut, makes it more permeable. So it's even things like leaky gut syndrome that people tend to get, that people develop nutritional allergies from, where undigested proteins end up in the bloodstream, and all of a sudden we start developing all these sensitivities, ulcers, such.
That's right.
Whole host of maladies from that, for sure.
And here's the one that really gets people. You hold on to body fat in your belly. You wind up having that, extra little weight gain, because your body's going into survival mode. It doesn't know the difference that you're just dealing with stress at work or stress in your relationship or in parenting. It goes into the same mode where I better protect myself from famine, from being starved.
Yeah, and I think they call that omental fat. That particular fat store is called omental fat.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, the visceral fat. I think it's called omental fat. I don't know. Yeah, I just remember the most obscure things. Can't remember when I supposed to pick my kids up from school, but. Listen, let me jump on you because I know we only have so much time here. But it's, and this is, of course, is a really massive topic, but it's important because the reason why I wanted to touch on some of these things is that it's how many people think that they just, it's just them. It's my genetics. It's my, this is just how this is how I am. I can't change it. And I know that, of course, that's not true. I mean, everything is possible, creating that mindfulness. And really, it's lack of resources or lack of resourcefulness, as Tony Robbins would say, to be able to access. And that's really it's been my curiosity forever. Like, yes, there's a problem, but it just seems that what you've done so kind of wonderfully is you've actually put a bunch of the pieces together where it seems like that's the contrary, because the way it seems like the wellness field or the medical field segregates all these pieces and they don't talk to each other, and yet they're all.
Why do they do that, though? We know why they do that.
Yeah, well, there's more money for one.
That's right.
Yeah.
And the same thing is true. We all know this. I'm not going to get into this topic too much, but the whole pharmaceutical gig, people, if you looked at the symptoms that are treated with pharmacology, right, antidepressants, anti-anxiety medications, and the symptoms that come up when people are nutritionally imbalanced, they mirror each other. They look exactly the same.
Right.
And nobody I don't know if nobody, that was a grand statement. Most people who are prescribing to millions of others these medicines don't talk about, listen, if you're going to take this medicine and you actually need this medicine, change the way you're eating and supplementing your brain, because it's going to enhance the impact. Because those medicines, got to tell you, they might take the edge off, but they're not going to fix your problem.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so with this whole process, I mean, with this concept, I mean, so who's going to benefit the most out there in the world right now?
Yeah, so people everybody on the planet experiences things like sadness, fear. We're human beings, right? All the range of emotions that we're supposed to feel. In fact, happiness is, the pursuit of happiness is one of my pet peeves, because happiness comes and goes just like the other ones. And most importantly is to create this condition of serenity or joy that you can stand on continually, even when sadness occurs, right? Even the big or little things happen that might throw you off course. If you have this, and you talk about this in different ways, this core power and this constant condition of serenity or joy is what I have. You can handle the range of emotions that we have to and really are privileged to experience. Right. So people who benefit from macronutrient mood therapy and my biopsychosocial approach to nutrition are basically any human being who wants to create a stable ground in their brain to handle everything with greater resilience. Now, of course, then there's people who are diagnosable with anxiety and depression, and they may need medication. Not always. Sometimes, all of these things are hormonally charged. I can't tell you how many people I wind up meeting and working with who are in midlife, like you and I, and particularly men who don't talk about their hormone imbalances as much as women do, And they're diagnosed with depression when in fact their hormones are just way off.
Right.
And that is where I wish for people to get more information. So and learn how to treat themselves, not about how fabulous they're going to want to look, but how fabulous they're going to want to feel.
Right. Yeah, well, that's something that I started exploring several years ago, and getting a whole series of blood panels. I think they took 12 vials of blood from me. I think I needed a transfusion when they were done, but testosterone levels were low. Estrogen levels were too high. DHEA levels were low. Cortisol levels through the ceiling. It just, everything was all out of whack. And yet, and without exploring that, you just think you're going crazy and that you're struggling. And
yeah.
I think for a lot of people, a lot of people will either give into it. A lot of people muscle their way through it. So they're mindful enough not to take it out on the world, but they're not having any fun either. And
they're also settling for a less fulfilling experience when they don't have to. Now, I just was on the phone last week with somebody who's very successful, in fact, and he just produced a child, so I guess some things are working, but right. his testosterone level was 200.
Right. Wow.
That must feel like crap. So that's the other issue, is that in the medical world, for guys in particular, what's considered quote unquote normal right. is subpar for a life that you deserve, from right. my perspective. And it's not necessary. So, there's ways to eat as well and to supplement naturally. You don't have to go down the testosterone route if you're not, and other hormone replacement therapies if you're not into that. But there's certainly over-the-counter natural supplements that you can take, and right. ways that you can eat, and obviously, ways that you can exercise that help the production of hormones to keep you in a healthier, happier zone.
Right. Well, it's it's definitely one of these things that we find that people are just not recovering from life in general. They're nutritionally, what life is demanding from them far kind of exceeds the nutritional quality of their life. And I think that's the big disconnect. It's just not a matter of just eating healthy or just eating consistently, but eating specifically, right? We need to start finding specifically what it is that we, and really pay attention to the effect. I'll know within 30 minutes or so after my meal whether or not that was the right combination for me, if I'm paying attention to it.
Absolutely. In fact, what I would be willing to do if anybody asks for it is that I could send people what's in the book, which is a food and mood 3-day self-evaluation.
Right.
And they can fill it out themselves and they can send it back to me, and I'd be happy to give them feedback on it.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
Yeah. So anybody who wants to grab one of those, just send me their email address, and we'll figure that out.
All right. So let me ask you something here. So just on this topic. So what if I don't want to change my diet? What if I'm very traditional. I'm kind of stuck. And so I said, well, I don't want to change my diet, but is there a bunch of supplements I can throw down my neck instead?
So that's a question of motivation, right? And that goes back to the psycho and social components of biopsychosocial.
Right.
So absolutely, you don't have to change your diet. You can add a few supplements like vitamin D and DHEA, and I can go down the list of things that the tryptophan, which is really great, and there's all these things that you can take to help your brain chemistry. But if you're going to counter it, it's all a matter of how much money you want to waste, because buy foods that are going to counter what you're trying to do. Why be so incongruent with your intentions and your actions? And so here's the more powerful thing to me going down that road is that, when people discover the psycho and social components and how to master their mind over their body and their actions, right? They gain this personal power that absolutely will propel them in all the areas of their life to have greater confidence. And so the question becomes what are you looking for really? Are you looking for that kind of, oh yeah, I'm doing something but not everything lifestyle?
Right. Well, yeah. Well, again, it's an incongruency piece. I've always maintained that you can't supplement a bad diet. Supplementation is to enhance the diet and fill in the blanks where during certain stages of where I am health-wise, I need to bring my health levels up. The healthy diet is perfect, but I may need some supplementation. Well, like living here where we are, it's vitamin D is a huge thing because it's dark about 8 months of the year.
Right. Don't you have one of those lamps? You have one of those big fancy
I do.
lamps?
I have the SAD lamp. Yeah.
And you know what? You know this too. We both know this. You can't cardio off a bad diet either.
Right.
So, if you're listening to this podcast, if you follow David Gilks, chances are you want to look like David Gilks. So, you're not going to cardio off your bad diet. You're not going to feel better as you can with a bad diet.
Right. So it's well, I know, like, it's interesting why this because this is the truth. It just seems like this is what they were talking about thousands of years ago, when we were apparently more intelligent, much more so than we are now. It's been all segregated. So there's a bigger push for this mindfulness piece to try and, but it's every corner of the wellness world, everything. This is the only diet. This is the only supplement. This is the only thing. But there's no such thing.
Sorry, my phone fell. Sorry.
That's all right. So there's no such thing as the thing. So just a matter of trying to find the combinations that work, and something you have to pay attention to for sure, right? Yep. Okay. So here's the challenge, because this is not, when we understand pieces of these, we understand eating healthy diet, it's good for you. We understand about trying to make the brain happy. But like all these various pieces that are not generally connected together. How do we go about finding a nutritional psychologist? It's not a term we hear out there. Is there any such thing other than you, or what? Are you the panda bear?
Right. If there are other people out there doing it this way, I'd love to know them. Right. So if anybody comes across someone, please connect me. I know lots of people who are experts in the different arenas that intersect with the biopsychosocial approach, so I can help people find resources in their areas if they'd like. I think that there's a wealth of information. You got to make sure you know how to review information on the internet, of course. And you can, as I said, look up that macronutrient mood therapy if that's the part you're concerned with most. And you can get the Revolution of Healing from Stress to Strong workbook and get a lot of great tips in there.
Yeah, 99 cents. I was really shocked when I went on Amazon. And
it's only that for this week, so people should take advantage. Yeah, that's it. It's going to wind up going back to the $7.99 price. It just went up. So it just went up a few days ago, and this is the way we're just promoting it to get people to check it out, of course. And then it'll jump to the $7.99. It's an ebook, and it's packed with not just information, but Kavi Sonios, my partner with it, she has a very inspirational story, much like yours, David, as I realized this morning, with using fitness to overcome major challenges, to really thrive.
Well, and I think that's the part. When I went through them and I started looking through the workbook over the last days, and it's the process. It's I've got 1,000 books, kind of all through my house, but it's trying to find something that actually takes you through a process of think, feel, and do, moves you through the stages. And there's not a lot out there that tends to lean very heavily towards one concept or the other.
Right. And you know what? Your SAM acronym, right, I use it all the time, and I share it all the time. And that's where, you and I have so much overlap. We call it different things. I have my core power, and I actually take, first I train people in stabilizing with that. And, we just have a lot of overlap. So, and I think we've probably influenced each other's development too, in such a short time. So it's pretty cool. And that's what this social networking is about. And the value, as you mentioned very early on when we started, we get to share information with people, and in a way that's easy for them to access. Well, and
again, and really the beautiful part is that it's not, and I realized this back from the mastermind group in Santa Monica about a month ago, and 25 of us, in business, trying to grow our business this year, but it's the level of contribution and all these successful speakers that came to talk to us so abundant in their mindset, right? And just willing, and because the intention is we have a product or a business model that's actually designed to serve the greater good. And so that's the intention. You can tell that's the intention because look at the collaboration that ends up happening at that focus. We're not trying to drive my business. We're trying to drive awareness and really you know, because every time you walk outside, you see people struggling and not knowing the way. So,
Yeah.
You know, and
I want to make sure that, you know, so if people want to know like what to eat to create a greater condition of serenity, to calm their central nervous system and their brain, all that, you know, what to eat, when to eat, how to eat, and the supplementation that could help. Again, that's in the book, but they could also email me and I'll help as much as I can that way.
Well,
and I'm not a nutritionist. Everybody needs to know I'm not a nutritionist. That's not my gig.
So why don't we look at, I know we said we'd be respectful of your time. We said we do a half an hour here this morning. And this conversation will go on. So if you guys have, you guys that are watching, if you have more questions and very specific questions, you can drop them in the message feed below this video. And we'll take note of it once we're done here. And then we'll arrange another one. And our goal is to do a series of them and kind of walk through maybe some more specifics on various questions. But Ava, would you mind dropping that link down for your website and your information and for the workbook?
Sure.
Yeah.
I got to get off the phone first to do it, right?
Yeah. So as soon as we sign off here, drop that information there so people know how to get a hold of that information from you. And and again, hugely appreciative for that our paths crossed inadvertently in the weird world of LinkedIn, of all places, of 30 million people kind of intersecting, and the fact that we kind of connected along the way is actually pretty fortuitous. So,
pretty amazing, right?
I know.
That's cool.
Well, it's listen, have an incredible day. I know I'll leave you to the rest of your day, and thank you so much.
Still no snow.
Yeah.
Still no snow.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, David. Great talking.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Okay, guys, have a great morning.
Bye.